Alright guys, I've got a question from one of my subscribers, and I think this is a common dilemma that most of us face in our lives, and the title of the email is Higher Self vs Parents and Society. So he says, lately I've been in a battle with self. My intuition tells me to pursue my dreams. On the other hand, my parents tell me to go to university because it will provide me with a good career. My father came from a third world country as a refugee for us to get an education and have a good life. He has suffered and endured so much unimaginable things. I feel like if I don't go to university, I will be disappointing him and he will feel like he went through all of that for nothing. I don't want to end up that way. I want to make my father proud. But do I do that by going to university, 3 years for a degree, studying business from people who've never actually succeeded in business, to get an office job and to end up in debt? Or do I follow my heart and do my own thing? Continue creating content, self-educating on a variety of topics such as psychology and wealth, and pursue financial freedom, time freedom, and location freedom, to retire my parents and families at home. What is the better option here? The answer is very clear. Since I discovered The Matrix in 2020 when I was in grade 11, I started educating myself on different topics and pursuing self-improvement. Since then, my higher self has always been guiding me and telling me that I am destined for greatness. I know it. I feel it. So which one? Follow my heart, my intuition, and my higher self, or listen to parents and society? Let me know your thoughts. So this is such a common theme. This is such a common theme for the person who finds their higher self. They come across a dilemma, and the dilemma is there is an outer world trying to tell you who you are, and there's an inner world trying to tell you who you are. And that is essentially the narrative or the archetype of the hero's journey. The hero's journey is all about the inner battle of finding out who you truly are and living in accordance with your higher self. So it looks like our subscriber here is essentially in the midst of his hero's journey. So as somebody who has gone through the whole education system, has gone to university, has got a 5-year engineering degree, and is currently not using it, and I don't think I definitely will not use it ever again because it doesn't align with who I am. What would I tell this person? What I will tell this person is that I think that they are on the right path, that them asking themselves the question is a massive step. It's a massive sign of courage and bravery to really ask yourself this question, even though it is conflicting with what your parents and what society wants. Like, good job on you for having the courage to even ask this question. And what I would say is that keep going on the path that you're on right now. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep following your intuition and seeing where it will lead you. And I do want to disclaim that there will be a lot of failures along the way if you're not following the path that is laid out for you, because the path that's laid out for you, it is a well tried and tested path. There is a blueprint. You do this, you do X, Y, and Z, and you will get these results and you will get a job. And I know it's not guaranteed now, but it is more guaranteed and certain than the path less traveled, the path of following your higher self. But only through following the path of your higher self is where you're going to be able to develop your intuition. As you go through trials and tribulations and a lot of failures, there's going to be a lot of failures along the way. But these are the things which are going to build up your intuition, because this is a long game. You building up your intuition and living in accordance with your higher self, you can't put a price on that. You can't put a price on a developed intuition, because when you've got a developed intuition, it can lead you to wherever you want to go. Wherever you want to go and whatever you want to become. When you've developed your intuition, that is priceless, and I think that is even worth more than any degree that you can get. Even whether it's a lawyer or a doctor or like a 500k salary CEO job, I do think that this is worth way more, developing your intuition on the path towards following your higher self. And once you've developed your intuition, you've got the master key. You've got the keys to the kingdom. You can get anything you want. That's what I truly believe. And so now, what do I mean by this? What do I mean when I say that the person with the developed intuition can get anything they want, that they've got the keys to the kingdom? And it may sound like a bit of an exaggeration, and it may sound a bit airy-fairy and way too optimistic, right? But I would like to invite you to have a look around at the people who you look up to, the people who went from rags to riches, who beat the odds, who followed their intuition and won. So for example, there's Steve Jobs. Now, Steve Jobs was the founder of a $1 trillion company, and what I find very interesting is that in his commencement speech, one of his words of advice for the people listening was to have the courage to follow your heart and your intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. everything else is secondary. And what strikes me about that is he says that everything else is secondary. Everything else is secondary to following your heart and your intuition. And history is filled with examples such as this, of the individual who followed their intuition, and they all say the same thing. The spiritual teachers and successful people and religious leaders all say the same thing, and they talk about your conscience, your intuition, the Holy Spirit. They say it in many different ways, but they all point to the same thing, which is your higher self, your intuition. And I believe that walking in alignment and following that is where you're going to find your fulfillment and where you're going to find your answers and life's purpose. What interests me as well is when I study, like I've got a lot of books out here, so that's why I've got the camera angle in this way to show the books. But I've got a lot of books here, and for example here, Think and Grow Rich. It was written by studying 500 successful men to analyze the behaviors and the modes of thinking and the thinking patterns of some of the most successful individuals in the world. They've got something that normal individuals don't, and you cannot learn these things from university. You can't learn any of these things in the university. So I want to read out two quotes from some of my favorite books. So here's one quote from How to Win Friends and Influence People. He says, "Most people go through college and learn to read and master the mysteries of calculus without ever discovering how their own minds function." And here's another one from I would call him a manifestation expert, Neville Goddard. He's really popular and you should really check out his works. He says, "Instead of learning my craft in schools, where attending courses and seminars is considered a substitute for self-acquired knowledge, my schooling was devoted almost exclusively to the power of imagination." So after graduating in university, that's when I discovered my higher self. And after discovering my higher self, I was thinking, oh my God, did I just waste 5 years doing a degree which I know I'm not going to do for the rest of my life? Did I just waste all my time? Because I started to realize all of these things. I started to realize all of the things which university or schools or parents or society or my religious affiliations did not teach me. It did not teach me how my own mind functions. It did not teach me the power of imagination. And why are these things even important? Why take the time to study how our own mind functions, to study the power of prayer, subconscious mind, our imagination, and all of those things? It can almost seem illogical and such a waste of time when we have other things to think about, like what career path we want to choose and the degree we want to study and all of those things, right? Now, I think these are all very good questions, and I do want to say that for most of my life, I was actually a skeptic. And also, I spent a decade in engineering, so my mind is literally hardwired towards logic and reason. So it was difficult for me to fathom these ideas and to actually spend the time trying to understand them. But what I've come to realize is that if I can go back in time, the most logical thing that I could have done is to study what the spiritual and religious teachers have been trying to tell us throughout the ages, because it would have made my life a lot easier. So I'll give you guys an analogy. I feel like not understanding universal laws and the power of your mind and all these things is like going through your life riding a bicycle with square wheels. It's going to be very inefficient. It's going to be a very rugged ride, right? But you can just take the time to take off the wheels and put on circular wheels so you can go through life in a more harmonious and smooth ride. Because if you don't understand these universal spiritual truths, then you can't walk in line with the power that comes with them. And if I were to boil down these spiritual truths into a simple statement, it is this. It is that thoughts create things, and that your imagination creates reality. That the power of your awareness and your imagination and how you use your mind, where you focus your attention on, your conscious attention on, will influence the reality that you experience. It's the law of attraction. It is manifestation. It is the secret. This is what the spiritual teachers have been trying to tell us throughout the ages. That is essentially the power of prayer. That is the power of your subconscious mind. The power of our attention. We are co-creators of reality by the thoughts that we think. We create reality with the thoughts that we think. The outer world is just a reflection of what we feel internally. This is what the spiritual teachers have been trying to tell us throughout the ages. And if we do not understand this, if we do not embrace this universal truth, then we're going to just be reacting to things and circumstances in the outside world, not knowing that we have the power within ourselves to create our own life path and destiny and the reality that we want to experience. And the reason I say this is that most often than not, when we think about, hey, I want to go to university to do X, Y, or Z, the reason we choose that is because we don't believe that there are any other paths out there. We only believe what is presented to us. There's this quote from The Truman Show. I believe he says, people accept the reality with which they are presented. And that is the hero's journey for those people who are pursuing their higher self. They are going to have to battle the external world, society and their parents, presenting to them a certain pathway. But if you truly know and embrace the fact, the universal truths that imagination creates reality and thoughts create things, and that you have the power to create your own destiny, then you would realize that there are infinite options that you can choose that are outside of what is presented to you. And that is the most difficult thing. People accept the reality with which they are presented. But for those people who are following their higher selves, they know that the option which they are being presented by their parents and society is only but one option out of a multitude of infinite options that they can choose. Their higher self knows that deep down, and that is the dilemma which my subscriber has sent me. I can see through his email, he says that he knows he's got something within him. He knows that he was meant for greatness. He knows that he can do things that are outside of what was presented to him. And so what would my advice be to this individual, or for people who are on a similar journey of thinking, should I listen to my parents and society of what they want me to do, or should I go out and carve my own path? And what I would like to say to that is to forge your own path. Like, it's going to be the most fulfilling life. You're not going to regret it. Because number one, you're going to develop your intuition, and the second thing I would say is to study universal laws, the power of your mind, how your own mind functions, the power of prayer. You know what, in the description below, I'm going to write down, I'll make a little write-up on some suggestions on resources and books. And also, if you guys have any comments or questions, then you can leave them in the comment box below, or you can also email me like this person. So I'll leave my email also in the description, so if you have any questions like this, I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Hope this provided some value and answered some questions, and as always, thank you guys, and see you in the next video. Peace.